Vasily Komarov was one of the worst murderers in the history of the USSR. He treated the murders of innocent people and even his own death sentence with demonic indifference. In Moscow in 1921, among the ruins of abandoned houses and construction sites, grey sacks began to be discovered containing the corpses of naked men. All the murders followed the same pattern. The victim's head had been smashed in with a heavy blow and their arms and legs were tightly tied to their abdomens. The police suspected that the killer was somehow connected with the horse market. It proved only possible to identify 7 of the 22 victims. All of them were peasants visiting Moscow to buy a horse who had then disappeared without a trace. The investigators noted the extremely skillful way the sacks were tied. It was how people used to harness horses' tied knots. Traces of oat were found at the bottom of some of them. However, according to the most credible theory, the serial killer was a taxi driver. There were many people of this profession in the city, but the circle of suspects narrowed when a corpse was found that had been tied with a baby diaper. It appeared that the mysterious killer had a recently born child in the house. The police constantly patrolled the city, questioning traders at the horse market and staff employed in local taverns. They drew the attention of the law enforcers to one Vasily Komarov, who displayed very unusual behavior for a taxi driver. He never chased after clients like his colleagues, but instead simply stood as if watching out for someone. At the same time, he always had plenty of money. On the night of May 18, 1923, police entered the home of Komarov on Shabelovka Street under the pretext of looking for an illegal alcohol pot still. The man fully kept his composure, but when the officers approached the storage room, he suddenly jumped out of a window and fled. In the storage room, the still warm corpse of yet another victim was found. The killer was caught the same night in a village near Moscow. It took the police very little time to discover all the details of his deeds. Vasily Komarov had been born into the large family of a railway worker and had spent many years drifting through the empire. After the Civil War, in the course of which he had worked his way up to the rank of Red Army platoon commander and distinguished himself by shooting captured White Army officers, Komarov settled in Moscow and started working as a private taxi driver. After a certain time, the serial killer cooled towards his new trade. However, he wanted to get rich fast and finally sought up a way of doing so. Komarov came to the horse market, watched out for a buyer who was on his own, and offered to sell him his horse at a very low price. Komarov then invited the delighted buyer home to talk through all the details and celebrate the deal with a drink. There he plied the unfortunate man with alcohol and killed him in cold blood, taking his money and even his bloodied clothes. Mikhail Bulgakov, a famous author who was working as a court correspondent, wrote, "He murdered them efficiently in a remarkably businesslike manner, always using the same method, the same hammer blow to the crown of the head, without any noise or haste, in the midst of conversing quietly. It is how an animal is slaughtered, without pity, but also without any hatred. He made money out of it, but not a fantastic amount. The buyer had roughly the price of the horse in his pocket." No signs of wealth were found in Komarov's house. The alcoholic taxi driver spent all his ill-gotten proceeds on booze. The Shabelovka murderer was accused of a total of 29 killings, although he personally claimed a tally of 33 victims. Before committing one of his crimes, Komarov would use a specious excuse to get his wife and children out of the house. On one occasion, Sofia returned a little early and saw a gory scene. Instead of running to fetch the police, she became a loyal accomplice of her husband, cleaning up the room and washing the floor after the murder. Experts diagnosed Vasily Komarov as an impulsive psychopath but declared him mentally fit. On June 19, 1923, he was executed by firing squad along with his wife. His orphaned children were taken into state care.